You're welcome back. This is a Channel One newsroom. Now, we earlier brought you a report where the minority in Parliament has accused the government of engaging in political persecution, claiming that their primary focus has been to target and arrest political opponents while denying them fundamental human rights. Now, we've been joined in the studio by the NPP MP of Parliament for Ifia, Isaac Boamah Nyako, to discuss key developments in Parliament. Thank you very much, Honourable, for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Fema.
What exactly is the minority seeking to achieve with your constant criticisms, of the arrest and investigations of past government appointees?
Thank you very much, Fema, and good evening once again to your cherished listeners, and a good evening to my constituents in Ifia for the opportunity to serve them in this 9th Parliament. It's true that the minority have been very vocal in the issue of arrest in recent times. And it's very important because as a minority, we're supposed to perform some oversight responsibility over the government. And so when things happen and we don't bring it to the attention of Ghanaians, they would be ignoring our fundamental responsibilities as members of Parliament to protect individual and ordinary Ghanaians against persistent adherence to the rule of law by no other person but our learned Attorney General, who is supposed to be the #1 defender of the rule of law in this country. And so we find it very important at any point in time to examine the conduct of the Attorney General or any state investigative agency in their dealings. And we think it is very necessary that Ghanaians get to know that the actions of the Attorney General is becoming very, very much worrying. And so it is very necessary that he puts a stop to some of these actions that he's undertaking.
Now, what do you say to those who argue that the minority is endorsing corruption by defending people who have corruption issues leveled against them?
It's very unfortunate if anybody thinks the minority has been condoning anything in and around corruption. Where is the corruption in this matter? Issues are that a past government has left office, a new government is in power, the powers of the state are in the government to investigate anything they find it's necessary. All that we are saying is that the government should follow due process. The Attorney General is the #1 legal advisor to the government. He's the chief prosecutor when it comes to matters of criminal law. And the Attorney General knows that in our criminal jurisprudence, a man is presumed innocent until proven guilty. And where do you prove the guilt of a man? It is in the court of competent jurisdiction, not the court of public opinion. And so when you have an Attorney General who is undertaking investigation, investigations have not been completed, dockets have not been built, people have not been charged of offenses, they've not been put before the normal courts of competent jurisdiction, and then we are playing in the gallery, trying to sensationalize Ghanaians into thinking that anything we are investigating, the person is at fault. And we find that very worrying because, Frema, if you are not careful, you will pronounce people guilty in the courts of public opinion. You go to court where the responsibility of the state is to prove the person beyond all reasonable doubt. Before the courts will find someone guilty, there is the burden of the prosecution to prove beyond all reasonable doubt. So when you go into court and you fail to make your case up, then we come back to the court of public opinion to say that, we saw all these things, we wanted to prosecute it, but the court again have left the people of the bar. And I think that is what we are guarding against. It is not enough for people to be investigated. It is not enough that when investigations is ongoing, the Attorney General should be in the press just to be talking about the issues when he has not completed the processes of investigation and prosecuting the matter. Because the role of the Attorney General is in the court of law and not in the court of public opinion.
So beyond press conferences, what other options are available to the minority, you know, in dealing with what you describe as abuse of power by the state?
Yeah, so the first point is to bring it to the attention of Ghanaians in the process, as we've been doing. We've been asking questions on the floor of the House as part of our parliamentary oversight responsibilities. Statements are also being made in the House for us to debate, based upon which certain referrals will be made to the appropriate committees of Parliament to look into it. But the crust of our argument is that this is an Attorney General who has served as a Deputy Attorney General before. In fact, in his time when he left office, he claimed that he has also been harassed by state organizations. Here is the case. We have Honorable Muntaka Mohammed, who is the Minister of Interior, being given additional responsibility as the Minister for National Security. He is in charge of national security. Why is the AG the one now giving instructions for security agents? If you have a matter, you refer the issues to the Minister for National Security. The Minister of National Security releases his men to go and conduct investigation. In the case of Addison, most recently, the governor of the central bank, they claim that they went with a warrant. As we speak now, the warrant, if you take a warrant to an individual to search, the issue is on you, the bearer of the warrant, to explain to the person the warrant you are holding, what are the areas you are going to search, the mandate of the areas you are going to search. But in the case of Dr. Addison, the issue is that even the warrant, though they had the warrant so-called, which I have not seen a copy of the warrant, by length, it is in the public space. But they didn't even brief the governor of the warrant they were holding. They had breached certain areas that were not in the warrant, and then you end up taking some cash and jewelry that belongs to the family, allegedly, of course, but they have not come to deny it, have they? So it's very important that we protect individuals. They are fundamental human rights. If someone does anything that is against the law and you want to investigate, it is within the purview of the state. We will not condone corruption. If you have evidence, our case is that do your investigations thoroughly, proceed to court, do the needful and the court of law, and when they are found guilty, the people will be pronounced by the courts of competent jurisdiction. We shouldn't judge people in the courts of public opinion. We shouldn't defame and damage the reputations of people when the people don't have the opportunity to come and speak to the matters that are before the public.
Very well, let's look at the case of the former boss of the National Signals Bureau. There have been concerns of how long he's been in custody, but if suspects have not been able to meet their bail conditions, is that not standard practice for them to remain in custody?
Of course, yes. If they've been, but the question is, where is the bail bond? Who issued the bail bond? Is it the National Security or the court? Are you aware where? Who?
Not yet.
Exactly. So we have no information that they were presented before the court. Of course, if you want to give someone bail before during the weekend, then the state investigative agency will determine the bail bond. But after 48 hours, the person should be presented to the court, and it is the court that will determine the bail bond. So let's take the person to court. Let the court determine the bail, and then the person would see if they can meet the bond.
Very well. So we have here in the studio NPP Member of Parliament for Ifya, the Honourable Isaac Boamah Nyarko. We'll come back to you, Honourable, but let's look at other stories as well. You're welcome back. We still have the Ifya MP, Honourable Isaac Boamah Nyarko, still in the studio. Now, let's turn our attention, Honourable, to the budgetary approvals made in Parliament. How is the debate going, and how would you assess the contributions of first-time MPs like yourself?
Thank you very much once again. We've had a very interesting time after the budget was read by the Honourable Minister for Finance. Parliament began the debate sometime last week on Tuesday, and we ended up the debate today. And so we've had people from both sides, the majority and minority. I think in total, we had about 35 persons on each side, meaning about 70 people debating over the last 1 week. And we've all shared our perspectives. I had my opportunity on Friday where I spoke to the women's banking, why I thought the financial allocation to the women's bank was woefully inadequate. I talked about the energy situation, where government intend to increase the cost of gas as well as the price adjustment from PURC, which will lead to an anticipated increase in electricity bills. I spoke about the youth unemployment situation and the fact that the budget didn't specifically speak more about how to improve on job creation as against the number of unemployment that the president raised in the State of the Nations. But we've had different positions on it. We've spoken about the big push where government said it was allocating $10 billion, but in the first year of the budget they've allocated less than $800 million to that effect, meaning over the next 4 years it will be very difficult. But what is becoming even more worrying and scary is when it came to the appropriation that we are trying to pass. Since yesterday, we've been trying to look at the allocations for the ministries, departments, and agencies. And today, right before coming here, we've approved that of roads and highways. We've approved that of agric. We've approved that of, I think, energy. And all of these ministries are receiving cuts in their budgetary allocations. Roads and highways, for example, last year had a budgetary allocation of about 4 billion. Now it has been reduced to 3 billion. Ministry of Energy had about 1.4 billion. It has been reduced to 1.1 billion. And so where lies the government's big promises of delivering the big push or delivering to the satisfaction of Ghanaians? And so it's always different from the talk they make on the floor of the House or in their estimates, and it is different from what actually has been presented to us in Parliament. And if this trend continues, which from where we sit, I sit on the Finance Committee now, and if you look at the allocations that are coming, then Ghanaians would have a lot of difficulty in terms of how much is being given to the ministries. And you know, most of these allocations are going into compensation, but when it comes to goods and services and capex, that is where the challenges lies. Not when we look at that of environment, science and technology, we saw in the appropriation that less than 13 million Ghana cedis have been given them for the area of services. And so if you take all the agencies under them, the CSIR, who need a lot of resources into research, and you give them a paltry 12 million, then what do we expect as a country in improving on our science and tech?
I was just going to ask you if the good people of Efia, your constituents, are covered in these allocations.
So these are general national allocations, and we are looking into it closely. I think that the Ministry of Roads, I raised some concerns about road infrastructure, particularly in the Western region. I have seen the minister capture the road between Sekindi and Takoradi, the one going to Aguna and Kwanta, and the rest in the appropriation for the roads, and which gives us some sigh of relief in the Western region. So we hope that
it's a good one, isn't it?
Oh, of course, yes. They have to do that for the people of Western region who gave them that huge mandate. But it's different given the allocation and the work being done. So we'll follow up and make sure that government delivers on its promises to the people.
Very well, Honorable.